Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers. That includes the scattered Israelites who are amongst these other nations and now look like these other nations. Now, this is going to be a quick hit lesson, just based on this scripture right here, Proverbs 16 and 18. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this precept. I'm going to get a definition, and Lord's will, you're edified. So Proverbs 16:18, pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. And a prime example of that is Esau, the so-called white man. He has so much pride, thinking that he's better than everybody, that he's superior to everybody. And he's not. In reality, he's the farthest thing from it. He thinks that he put himself where he is. But in reality, the Lord put him there. But Esau's pride is going to lead to his destruction. Now I have the definition or the meaning of pride goes before destruction. And it says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Is a biblical proverb meaning that excessive arrogance, overconfidence, and conceit often lead to a person's downfall, failure, or ruin. It warns that thinking too highly of oneself or feeling invulnerable causes careless mistakes. And that is the so-called white man in a nutshell. Because the Lord gave them the ability to go throughout the world and rape, rob, and murder and colonize, they really think that they are on top of the world. They think that they are invincible. They think that they can't be brought down. That's why they boast so much about their military might, like, America in particular, always bragging about their military. Honestly, you want to see the arrogance of these Edomites, just look at Trump. Trump is a prime example of Edomite arrogance. Like, he really thinks that he can't be touched, man. He's trying to change the laws so that he doesn't ever have to step down from being president. He's sicking the military on these other countries. He's sick of the American military on these other countries, and currently he's targeting Iran. He sicked ICE on American citizens. At first, it was the so-called Hispanics. But now, basically, everybody's getting caught up. Now the Muslims are getting caught up. Two Edomites have gotten gunned down by ICE. The Somalians are getting it. So, that's how the so-called white man thinks. He really thinks that he's just this big, bad, tough guy, who through his military might, through his blessing of the sword, he's just, he can't be moved. And that pride and that arrogance and that overconfidence is going to lead to his destruction. It's going to lead to his downfall, his failure, and his ruin. Because the Lord is about to show Esau that he's never been the one pulling the strings. He's never been the one calling the shots. says the root of ruin. Pride causes people to become unteachable, arrogant, and blinded to their own weaknesses. And that's Esau. He's blinded to his own weaknesses. And that is why the Lord is going to use Esau's blessing of the sword against him. You see, an Edomite created the nuclear bomb. A so-called white man created the nuclear bomb. So this third world war, which is going to be a nuclear war, and it's going to result in the destruction of America, that's going to be Esau's own weapon being used against him. You know, he thinks he's this big bad guy who can just go throughout the world and just bully everybody because of his military might. But the Lord is going to use that against him. That is going to be part of his downfall. It says context. It is often used to describe how a person's conceit leads them to ignore risks, leading to a sudden and dramatic downfall. And given the recent back and forth between Trump and, Iran's leaders, you can tell that Trump is he's very arrogant, like he's like just telling them like, hey, you're going to have to do what I want you to do, or, we're going to send the military in there. And in a lesson that I had done previously, there was an article that I read, and in the article, one of Iran's leaders, or just somebody higher up in the regime or in the government, whatever you want to call it, said that, yeah, while America has these like warships, and those are serious war machines. He said what's even worse, roughly paraphrasing, is the weaponry that can sink those war machines to the bottom of the ocean. So basically, these other nations, they're letting Esau over here in the West know, like, hey, you wanna act up, you wanna bring your military over here. We have the capability of sinking your ships, shooting down your helicopters and your fighter jets. But Esau, he doesn't understand that. He ignores the risks because Esau really thinks he's just, untouchable. But like I said, the Lord is going to show Esau that he's the farthest thing from it. It says source of error. The phrase highlights that when people are puffed up or self-important, they are most vulnerable to destruction. And Esau's pride is leading him right to his own destruction. And he doesn't even see it. You have these Edomites all over Twitter in particular, just talking about how, they're just so much better than everybody. And it's like, no, the only reason why Edomites are in the power position that they're in is not because they're better than everybody. It's because the Lord put them in that position. The Lord gave them that blessing of the sword that they use to colonize the world. Nobody likes Esau. Nobody likes these so-called white people. The whole world is turning against these Edomites. These Edomites have raped, robbed, and murdered everybody. And the world is fed up with them. Even other Edomites are fed up with them. And in particular, everybody's fed up with America, and specifically Donald Trump, because his pride and his arrogance is through the roof. Even America's own allies are starting to take steps back, take steps away from America, because like it's too much. It says application. It applies to various areas, including leadership, relationships, and personal success, serving as a reminder that humility is crucial for sustained success. And Esau is the worst kind of leader, because everything he does is wicked and wrong. Every time you turn around, there's news coming out about these Edomites doing something wicked. Lately, it's been around pedophilia type stuff, messing with children. But yet these Edomites will try to gaslight you and make you think that, you're the problem for being mad at them from touching children. That you're mad at them for being racist, that you're mad at them for being a bunch of Nazis and white supremacists who think that everybody around them is inferior to them. Even though history proves proves the contrary. Because all Esau has done is steal from these other nations and then whitewash these other nations' culture and claim it as his. That's all Esau has done. Stolen other people's culture, whitewashed it, made it dull and bland like these Edomites are, and then claimed it as theirs. Took credit for other people's work. That's what Esau does. And all of that wickedness is going to come back to bite them. And it's already been happening. And it's just going to get worse. And it's going to become more evident. And there's nothing that Esau can do to stop it. Because if you've been paying attention, these Edomites have been taking hit after hit in one form or another. And the Lord is just going to keep dishing out those hits. Because, I'm going to grab one more precept and then I'll wrap it up. Job 14:5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. And that's right, Esau's days are numbered and his days are almost up. That's why everything is falling apart for these Edomites. And as things fall apart more and more, these Edomites, they're going to get riled up more and more. They're going to get more angry. They're going to commit more violence against the people. But then the people are going to start to fight back. And that's when the race wars and the civil wars are going to pop off. See, everybody is rightfully acknowledging that the so-called white man in particular is the problem. Now, the so-called white woman, she's not exempt either, because for the longest, she's co-signed all the wickedness that he was doing. So when he goes down, she's going down right along with him. She doesn't get a pass. Both their days are numbered. And it's a beautiful thing to understand that these wicked, hateful, racist, disgusting, degenerate Edomites are not going to be in power much longer. Soon they will be in slavery. They will be in chains where they belong. at the bottom. And it's all going to happen through the power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. You know, Esau is out here thinking that he's all powerful. The Lord is going to show him what real power looks like. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakudash, the water Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere believers. Hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Until next time, Shalom.